Dupe culture, a helpful or harmful trend. Dupe culture makes looks inspired by designers affordable for more people. While this seems like a win, it has some serious downsides. Like fast fashion, producing tons of cheap products harms the environment, creating waste and pollution when these items are thrown away. The fast-changing trends in dupe culture make this problem worse by pushing people to buy more new items. This means they throw away old items quickly, which creates more waste. Another issue is how dupe culture affects creativity. When brands focus on copying popular designs, it leaves less room for new and original ideas. Over time, this can make fashion feel less exciting, as designers might avoid taking risks or trying fresh approaches. At the end of the day, dupe culture is about making high-end styles more accessible. However, it comes with certain trade-offs. As shoppers, we should ask ourselves whether saving money is worth paying the price of harming the environment and creativity. Whether it's in fashion, beauty, or home goods, dupe culture is here to stay. Still, it also serves as a reminder to think about why we buy and whether it's truly worth it in the long run.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to English for You. I'm Mike.
I'm Nikki.
And we are back with day 2 of our look at dupe culture. If you don't want to spend all of your money on some wonderful luxury item, but you do want kind of the luxury item, or at least something that has almost the same quality, then maybe dupe culture can offer you some pretty good and affordable solutions or options. For example, we gave the example of makeup. Makeup is something that can be really expensive.
Yes.
Especially now they have a lot of these celebrities, right, who have their own lines. And often that stuff isn't the cheapest for people, especially for young people who might not have, as much money in their pocket. They might not have a big budget to buy expensive products, but they do like something that they've seen on TV or on the internet.
Social media.
Or social media, of course. And that's why they might look for a dupe product. It's almost as good as the luxury, high-end, expensive one, but it costs half the price or even less. Is this a good idea? And today, we're kind of going to be looking at not just for the customers, but also for the people who make it. Is it good for customers? Is it good for the market? Is it a good idea? The pros and cons, the good and bad of dupe culture. So let's get into it. It says dupe culture makes looks inspired by designers affordable for more people. Absolutely, yes. We've all seen the fashion shows from Paris and London and other places, but most of us can't afford clothes like that. Most of us can't afford luxury items, maybe like sponsored by a famous celebrity. They can be quite a bit more expensive than other things. So this kind of makes these looks, these designs, affordable for more people. While this seems like a win, it has some serious downsides.
There's a catch.
Yeah, this is the interesting part of today's article. So it seems like a win. It seems like it's good for people, right? You'll get a good quality product and you pay less for it. That's a good thing. But it has some serious downside. It has some negatives. There are some bad things about this too. Even though, yes, the products could be more affordable than their high-end competition. If something's affordable, it's something that can be bought. It's within your budget. It's not too expensive. If you say, I can afford that, you're saying, I have enough money to buy that and not, run out of money or not give myself problems in the future. So if something is affordable, it's something that most people would be able to pay for, most people would be able to buy. For example, you don't need to buy the best pair of headphones. Just buy a good, affordable pair. So even though, all the hip-hop stars are wearing a certain brand, you don't need that brand. You can find something almost as good for a much lower price, something that's more affordable for someone who isn't very rich.
那接续我们前一天介绍到的平替文化，今天要来聊聊，虽然平替商品的价格比较低，比较容易负担，但是还是有一些潜在的问题和缺点。Affordable 这个形容词指的是负担得起的 cheap enough for people to buy or not expensive. 那它的动词会是 afford. 另外看到 downside 这个名词指的是缺点 the disadvantage of a situation. For example, the downside of living in a big city is that everything is expensive, not affordable.
Okay, let's look at some of the downsides. All right, it says, like fast fashion, producing tons of cheap products harms the environment, creating waste and pollution when these items are thrown away. So yes, fast fashion, those very popular stores where you can buy lots of cheap clothes, but people also throw away a lot of those cheap clothes. So producing cheap stuff that people will then throw away quite quickly just is making more garbage. It's harming the environment. It's bad for the earth. That's what it's saying there. Producing tons of cheap goods or products harms the environment, creating waste, garbage, and pollution when this stuff gets thrown, into landfills or ends up in the ocean or wherever. And that's what happens when these things are thrown away. Tons of cheap products. When we say ton, a ton can actually be a real number. It's 1,000 kilograms. That's a ton. So if we talk about a 2-ton truck, that could be a truck that weighs 2,000 kilograms. Here, though, we're not talking about an actual specific weight. When we use it in another way, it's just saying a lot. Oh my gosh, I have a ton of things to do this weekend. Or we went to the supermarket and bought a ton of groceries for the Chinese New Year holiday. I don't think you bought 1,000 pounds or 1,000 kilograms, I should say, of food. It just means we bought a large amount of something. For example, my teacher gave me a ton of homework to do this weekend. It doesn't weigh 1,000 kilograms, but it's going to take me many, many hours. It's a lot of homework. And a lot of these products can harm the environment, especially when we throw them away. To harm is to hurt or to damage. You will harm your body if you smoke cigarettes or something like that. You will harm your bicycle if you leave it out in the rain or, scratch it by dropping it on the ground or something. You're hurting it, you're damaging it, you're causing some kind of injury to something. For example, don't be so afraid. It's just a bee. It won't harm you. It won't hurt you, in other words.
那就像是快时尚，他们为了要快速的生产产品，就会用很多便宜的东西，然后这些东西会伤害到环境。那正是因为这些产品的品质没有很好，很容易就会穿坏，就会被丢掉，那就会产生大量的废料和污染。Ton 这个名词指的是大量、大批 ，an extremely large amount。所以我们说 tons of cheap products 指的就是 plenty of lots of cheap products。那另外 harm 这个动词指的是伤害 to have a bad effect or to damage something. We say they harm the environment. It means that they are bad for the environment. They're harmful to the environment.
The fast-changing trends in dupe culture make this problem worse by pushing people to buy more new items. That's true. When a new trendy product comes along, the dupes will quickly follow. And so something that you bought a few weeks ago, now there's a new thing. Forget that old thing that I bought 2 weeks ago. I want the new thing. So these trends will make people buy new stuff faster and faster. They might not even finish the old thing before they kind of throw it away so that they can get the new thing. That's what we're talking about by pushing people to buy more new items because of fast-changing trends. This means they throw away old items quickly, which creates more waste, especially when you haven't used that old item.
那所以我们前面提到的平替文化的缺点或者是潜在的问题就在这里。越来越多人会因为看了影片而去买比较便宜的版本，但是呢，正好这些版本就是为了省成本，所以会用一些品质没有那么好的材料，那大家就会用一用就把它丢掉，制造更多的浪费。
All right, so I think that downside is something a lot of us could guess, right? The more there are cheap products, the more people will buy cheap products, and the more cheap products will end up in the garbage. But this is another interesting downside next. It says another issue is how dupe culture affects creativity. When brands focus on copying popular designs, it leaves less room for new and original ideas. So when companies are all chasing each other around, trying to copy each other, where do the new ideas come from? These companies aren't putting the time or the money into developing new things. They're just copying trends.
Wouldn't they be angry, the ones that making the luxury brands, because they're always being copied?
That's true. I mean, they've been dealing with that for a long time. And of course, when all the other companies are just trying to do what the big guy, the famous one, is doing, where do the new ideas come from? So that is another interesting issue. And then, of course, customers just kind of get bored and they go, there's nothing new out there, right? Well, because it's not the world and the people who make this stuff, they aren't being given the time to think of the new things. So this is an issue. Something that's an issue is an important factor or it's relevant to something. When we look at things in the world, often they're big, they're complicated, and there are many different sides or many different parts to them. Something that is an issue is one part of that bigger idea. So if you're talking about building a new building, there will be a lot of different issues, right? Parking would be an issue. Where will people leave their cars? Where will people enter the building? How big can the building be? And if the building is now too big, it's going to be more expensive to get people to move inside the building. You'll need more elevators. And if the building's really big with big windows, now you'll need more air conditioners, and that will bring more electricity. All of these are different issues. They're different parts of something that you have to think about. Some of them are big, important issues. Other are minor, small issues, but they're all different parts to it, and all of them have to be thought about at different times to make a success. For example,
exactly.
I think the biggest issue for this new project is, do we have enough time to get it done? Other issues might be the cost and how many people it will take to do it. But if you have very little time, that's going to be a very important issue.
那另一个问题在于创意的限制，也就是说，越来越多的品牌致力于复制高级品的功能或是内容，他们就不会想要去创新，或者是有更多新的想法。Issue 这边这个名词指的是问题或者是议题 ，a subject or problem that people talk about. So for example, political issue 政治上面的议题问题 ，environmental issue 环境的议题，或者是 ethical issue 种族的议题。那 creativity 这个名词指的是创造力或者是创意 ，the ability to use your imagination to produce ideas or things。那它的动词是 create， 名词 creation 是创造物，那创造东西的人 creator。
All right, so over time, the article says this, all these companies just copying each other. Over time, this can make fashion feel less exciting, as designers might avoid taking risks or trying fresh approaches. Yes, absolutely. Fashion is, I think, less exciting because things just kind of look the same now, because everyone's trying to kind of design something that looks like the popular thing, but then we're avoiding all the interesting things that might come along because designers aren't taking risks. They aren't taking chances on something new and unusual or trying something fresh, looking for a fresh approach. When you take a risk, you basically take a chance on something. You do something that could be successful, or it could also be a failure, right? So you're kind of putting something in danger. You're putting something to chance. It could work out. It could not work out. But if you don't take a risk, you're always going to do the same thing, and life will get very boring very quickly. But a risk is the possibility of something bad that could happen at some time in the future. It also could not happen. But that's, of course, the chance or the risk that you take. For example, there are many risks to face if you want to climb to the top of Mount Everest, right? Challenges and dangers involved. So your approach is very important. Approach is kind of like a technique. It's like a way of doing something. It's how you start to handle or take on a problem. If you're having an argument with someone, one approach is to just go, "Well, I hate you," and slam the door and run away. Well, that's not a great approach. Because it won't solve the problem. Another approach would be to sit down and listen to their problem and think about their point of view. That's another good approach. Another approach would be to say, "I'm really angry, but I want to talk to you about this later," and, take a 30-minute break. That's another way of handling a problem with another person. There's all different approaches. Some will be better than others, but sometimes it comes down to your style or what you're comfortable doing. For example, what approach will you take when you ask your parents to help you buy a used car? Ooh, that's a difficult thing to do, and there's different ways to try to get your parents to help out.
那 over time 随着时间过去，这样的现象就会产生，这些设计师就会越来越不想要去冒险或者是尝试新的方法。Risk 这个名词指的是风险或者是危险 ，danger, the possibility of something bad might happen. So here it says the future of fashion will be at risk since no designers want to design anymore. So they don't want to take risk, they don't want to do something that might be dangerous. 那 approach 这个名词指的是方法或者是方式 way or method of doing something. So we can say we tried a different approach, tried an alternative approach. 那它当动词的时候指的是接近 to come near. For example, I always run away from strangers that try to approach me on the street. 就是我平常在路上的时候看到如果有陌生人接近，我就会跑掉。
And then it says, at the end of the day, dupe culture is about making high-end styles more accessible. So at the end of the day, kind of in conclusion, we've looked at some of the good, we've looked at some of the bad, we look at why people do this and that kind of thing, how these trends spread. But in conclusion, if we look at this whole idea, dupe culture, it's about making high-end styles or luxury styles more accessible, more available to other people, even if they can't buy the famous brand and pay all of that extra money. They can still get a product that is almost as good.
Exactly. At the end of the day, 指的就是到头来。总之，那我们回到原本的主题来说的话，平替文化就是为了要让大家可以得到这些高单价的、高定价的产品的样式。Accessible 这个形容词指的是可得到的、可获得的。If something is accessible, it's easy to reach or get to. It's approachable.
It's available to normal folks and not just, people who are really rich, for example. However, it says dupe culture comes with certain trade-offs. You have to give up something to get something in life. That's kind of a trade-off, right? It can't always be perfect in every way. As shoppers, we should ask ourselves whether saving money is worth paying the price of harming the environment and creativity. Again, you can't have everything be perfect. If you want to save money, that's great, but you could be harming the environment. You could also be harming creativity from companies. So it's kind of a judgment, a choice that you have to make, but know that if you go for something, you might be losing something else.
但是呢，还是有一些要妥协或者是权衡的地方。也就是说，作为消费者的我们要去思考，到底买这些比较便宜的商品值不值得？知道他们其实会伤害环境之后，我们还会想要买吗？还会想要当破坏环境的加害者吗？那 trade-off 这个名词指的是两难情况下的权衡或是妥协。Pay the price 指的就是付出代价。And now let's take a look at our language and focus. Worth 是形容词，指的是值得做某件事情的。be, v, worth 加一个名词或者是 VING. For example, this new restaurant is good. It's worth trying. It's worth a try. It means that you should definitely go there. It would be worth it. 所以 be worth it 这边就会是固定片语的用法，指的是表示一个东西是值得的。那另外一个用法是 be 加一个原形动词 worth 加上一个金额、数量或者是占比。For example, the essay you write next week will be worth 60% of your grade in English class.
All right, so whether it's in fashion, beauty, or home goods, dupe culture is here to stay. Still, it also serves as a reminder to think about why we buy and whether it's truly worth it in the long run.
但是我们必须承认的就是，不管是哪一类的商品，这样的平替文化短时间之内都不会消失。所以我们该做的事情就是问问自己，是否真的需要这样的产品，以及对于环境所带来的影响。Goods 这边当名词指的是商品或者是 products。Here to stay 指的就是会持续很久，并且成为常态。那 in the long run 指的就是从长远来看。那喜欢今天的主题吗？不要忘了按赞、订阅、分享我们的 YouTube 频道和 Facebook 哦。
All right, we have a chat question before we go. And don't worry, this is a authentic chat question, not a dupe chat question. How can buyers make more conscious decisions when it comes to buying dupes or original designs?
I would suggest that they all come to read this article.
Yes,
so they would
education.
Know, exactly. They would know what is good and what is bad.
That is absolutely a very good idea. Also, you can kind of look at consumer reports, right? There are people, in the same way, there are people who tell us if books are good or movies are good or if you should watch a TV show. There are people who review these things. They're not trying to sell you anything. They're just trying to give you the best information. That might be a good way of finding out whether that dupe you have your eye on that's so cheap is actually worth all the money, because you might find out it's better to pay a little bit more for the real thing. But educate yourself. Know about what you're doing and know about what happens when you make certain choices. Take care, everyone. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Vocabulary Review.
Affordable. This car looks like the most affordable choice. The bigger one is too expensive for us. Ton. There were tons of people at the concert, and it was difficult to find a good spot. Harm. Not getting enough sleep can harm your ability to think and affect your mood. Issue. Climate change is an important issue around the world that many scientists are working hard to solve. Risk. There is always a risk of losing money when you start a new business. Approach. The new boss took a fresh approach to solving the problem after he asked for the workers' opinions.
字汇小补帖
Downside. Creativity. Accessible. Trade-off. Goods.